This is CBC Winnipeg News.
A national strike begins this hour. Canada Post workers are hitting the picket lines. Here in Winnipeg, a crowd of mail carriers have been gathering outside of the postal depot at Winnipeg's airport. Thank you for joining us. The Canadian Union of Postal Workers says it is on strike effective immediately. It comes in response to the government ordering Canada Post to consider major changes to ensure its survival. Those changes could include ending home delivery and closing some rural post offices. We'll bring you local reaction to those changes just ahead, but the very latest first from the CBC's Ashley Burke.
For over a century, Canada Post has delivered mail to some people's doors. But the government says it's now time to phase that out.
What this announcement is about saving Canada Post.
The minister responsible says Canada Post is facing an existential crisis. Canadians are turning to competitors to deliver their packages and aren't sending as many letters. The Crown Corporation now effectively insolvent, and Joel Lightbound says Ottawa can't keep bailing it out.
We can't go on with Canada Post losing $10 million a day and Canadian taxpayers footing the bill.
So he's directing Canada Post to end home delivery for the 1/4 of Canadians who still get it. That means moving 4 million addresses over to community mailboxes over the next 9 years.
I'd rather have my mail delivered at my house because I don't have to walk.
Mail should be mailed. You have your box in your house, done.
I would be fine with it for us, but I worry about the people that aren't capable.
Seniors and people with mobility issues can apply to keep the service. The government's also telling Canada Post to move non-urgent mail by land, not air, to save millions of dollars. That means letters will arrive within a week instead of 3 to 4 days. The government's also lifting a 30-year moratorium protecting rural post offices so Canada Post can see how many are actually still rural.
I'm asking the corporation to come back with a plan that will clearly, make sure that rural, remote, Indigenous communities are not impacted.
The union's appalled, and effective immediately, all its workers are on strike.
We want to be delivering to people's homes, just like what we call our competition. We want those parcels going, because otherwise, all that happens is it deteriorates the post office and the writing's on the wall at that point.
The government says Canada Post has 45 days to come up with a plan that details how it will move forward. The Postal Service says it welcomes Ottawa's move so it can better serve Canadians. Ashley Burke, CBC News, Ottawa.
Now here in Winnipeg, reaction to the potential changes to mail delivery have been mixed.
I think it's about time. I mean, things have changed. Everybody knows there's less mail going around. I'd be happy if they cut down the number of times they deliver the mail every week.
I think that it's completely wrong. I mean, I think there's a lot of people who depend on that home delivery, especially older adults who live alone and who are not physically able to go down to those mailboxes in the middle of winter.
I don't think it'll have much of an impact. The things that I still get in the mail, if they take a day or two extra, I open them up and I file them away, but it's not going to make a difference to me.
So to me, this is just one in a long line of cutting out the people who need services the most.
First Nations in Manitoba rely heavily on Canada Post for mail, important documents and medications. Assembly of Manitoba Chiefs Grand Chief Kyra Wilson is worried any changes to the frequency of mail delivery and or the closure of post offices could disproportionately affect First Nations.
First Nations people, we receive through the mail, some very basic necessities, which are extremely important to the health and wellness of our people. Sometimes we see prescriptions that are being shipped through Canada Post to our First Nations communities.
The family of a woman killed in a crash on Abinogi-Mi'kmaq last week is looking for answers. The 49-year-old died while waiting for a bus last Tuesday. And as the CBC's Zabina Ahmed reports, the family also wants the driver to be held accountable.
This is Omotayo Samuel Peppel, a 49-year-old mother of 3 who died after being hit by a vehicle on September 16. Her sister, Mary Oloyede, lives in Toronto. She says they are all devastated and looking for answers.
They would want to know if the driver was impaired, what actually happened. I know the police is still doing their investigation, but we are hoping, there will be more information as time goes by.
Samuel Peppel was hit as she waited at a bus stop near the corner of Abinoji, Mikana and St. Mary's Road last week. She was seriously injured and taken to hospital in critical condition. She died after multiple surgeries on September 18. Oloyede says that although her sister was conscious at the scene, it doesn't appear any effort was made to promptly contact the family.
Even if I was not there presently, at least I would have gotten a friend or, a church member I should have notified people around her so that they get to the hospital. But nobody contacted me. I was only contacted 8 hours after the accident happened.
Oloyede says her sister arrived in Canada a year ago and was studying human resources at the University of Manitoba. She has 3 children and a husband who live in Nigeria and had plans to eventually bring them to Winnipeg. She described her sister as kind, easygoing, and active in her church community.
I was privileged to have a good person as a sister. Everyone that had crossed the paths had good stories about her.
Oloyede wants the driver to be held responsible for her sister's death. She also hopes the public will come forward with any information, especially dashcam footage that might clarify what happened. Winnipeg police say traffic investigations can be complex and may take time. Zubina Ahmed, CBC News, Winnipeg.
A woman in her 60s remains in hospital after being hit by a vehicle last week. It happened at Notre Dame and McPhillips just before midnight last Friday. The driver remained at the scene. Police say the woman is in unstable condition. Police are looking for anyone with dash cam video to get in touch. Winnipeg's mayor is promising some sort of relief for late-night commuters on Winnipeg Transit. This comes after widespread complaints about Transit's new bus schedule. The CBC's Bartley Kivas joins us now from City Hall. So, Bartley, what is the mayor doing?
Scott Gillingham says he's asked Winnipeg Transit to determine how much it will cost to extend late-night service. Now, Winnipeg Transit overhauled its routes and schedules at the end of June. Most of the feedback's been negative. Some Winnipeggers, especially in the suburbs or who work late-night shifts, say it's been harder to get where they need to go. Gillingham says he wants to know the cost of extending service in time for next year's budget, and that means later this fall.
If our staff came back and said, actually, we can make some changes within budget this year, then that would be what we would pursue.
So how did this go over today, Bart?
Well, Councillor Rollins, Sherry Rollins of Fort Rouge, is among the councillors who say the mayor simply is not moving quickly enough.
After increased public pressure, they're committing to what, next year? It's really unclear. We need action.
So Bartley Council also voted today on new rules limiting the placement of homeless encampments. How did that go?
Well, the vote was unanimous today at Council on a plan to determine where some encampments simply cannot go. They're no longer allowed within 50 meters on playgrounds. They're no longer allowed as of November 17th, within 50 meters of playgrounds, pools, spray pads, or outdoor rec facilities. Encampments must also be further than 50 meters from schools, daycares, or adult care facilities, and away from traffic, transit shelters, bridges, docks, piers, and, importantly for Winnipeg, rail lines. And Councillor Cindy Gilroy originally brought this to City Council and later got the mayor and the rest of Council on board. Riley.
Thank you, Bartley. That is the CBC's Bartley Kivas at City Hall. All right, time for a first check on our forecast. And boy, oh boy, if you stepped outside, sure was a windy one out there. Not as hot. Let's get a first check on our forecast with weather specialist Ethan Williams.
Well, Riley, I thought I'd start with a look back at the day before because we had some remarkably warm weather across the province, record-breaking, in fact. surprisingly not in the places where we hit 30 degrees, but rather in places like Barons River, Fisher Branch, the Paw, where we got into the mid-20s. That was enough to break a record in Fisher Branch anyway that went all the way back to 1997 for the day of September 24th. Anyway, definitely not feeling those record-breaking temperatures as we go through Thursday, though. You'll notice that we have been sitting in the upper teens and barely managing to get above the 20-degree mark in many locations province-wide. But that will change as we get into Friday. We're going to be starting the day already at the 10-degree mark in Winnipeg at 8 a.m. And by the afternoon, probably cracking the 20-degree mark. But keep in mind some increasing cloudiness with maybe some showers and some gusty conditions as well. I'll have the details on just how much rain we will be expecting in your full forecast coming up.
Thanks, Ethan. Coming up, major concerns have been raised about the way CFS agencies are conducting child abuse investigations at foster homes. What our I-team uncovered just ahead. We're getting new insight tonight into the way abuse allegations in foster homes are investigated. Documents obtained by CBC News reveal government officials have raised concerns for years about how child welfare agencies conduct those investigations. It comes in the wake of an incident in Winnipeg that has left a girl fighting for her life after suffering life-altering injuries in a foster home and 2 people facing charges. The I-Team's Kristen Annabelle brings us the story.
When a child in care is possibly being abused by their foster parents, the CFS agency involved investigates, hoping to find the answer and keep the kids safe. But CBC has learned these investigations are sometimes flawed. Documents obtained by CBC News through Freedom of Information show how many investigations into foster homes were reported by the agency and what the province found when they reviewed them. These findings showed that relevant interviews were not being completed. There were investigation delays, times when the alleged offender wasn't interviewed, and criminal investigations impacted because of not following best practices. The Manitoba Foster Parent Association says these problems are the symptom of wider issues with CFS.
We have one of the most underfunded systems in the world. So these things, when we have a system in chaos that's underfunded and unsupported, it is no wonder that things like this happen.
Officials with Manitoba's Child Protection Branch say these reports make the system better. They help them target what training is needed for the agencies, whether it be how to interview a child better or how to use forensics during an investigation. They've also switched to a digital reporting system to make it easier for the agencies. Kristen Annabelle, CBC News, Winnipeg.
A faith-based charitable organization that works with underserved youth in Winnipeg's North End is releasing a new documentary about the issue of student absenteeism. It claims absenteeism rates have reached new heights. The CBC's Justin Fiacconi breaks down the claims and the Winnipeg School Division's response.
They knew it was bad, but they did not know it was this bad.
A new documentary is set to shed light on the issue of student absenteeism in Winnipeg's North End. Called Absent, it explores the problem through first-hand experience of young people, parents, community members, administrators, and Indigenous leaders. Executive producer Kent Dewick has worked passionately on the issue for the past 9 years. He claims that in at least one high school, absentee rates exceed 70%, something he says he witnessed while touring the halls in 2023.
It was devastating to see. It had a dystopian vibe to it, just to see this amazing school, amazing staff, ready to go, ready to teach, and just crickets, and empty hallways and classrooms.
Dewick says he got the 70% figure from Winnipeg School Division Chief Superintendent Matt Henderson.
He says that from a reliable source, he has it that one school has an absenteeism rate of 70%. I'm not sure what that reliable source is. They are not in our schools.
Henderson says the rate of chronic absenteeism across the division is closer to 6%. But he does acknowledge a problem the documentary promises to address: large numbers of unaccounted for students.
There was a practice of dropping students from rosters if they hadn't shown up. We don't do that anymore. We keep every student on our roster until we know what their story is.
There are a number of factors that influence student absenteeism, like the influence of mental health and a fear of violence. It's a particular concern in Manitoba, where child poverty rates are among the highest in the country.
It's critical that we bring this issue to the surface and that we talk about it candidly, and that we make it possible for kids to have an amazing future.
Dewick hopes that when the documentary premieres on October 1st, it will reignite the conversation about student engagement to prevent a bad situation from getting worse. Justin Fiacconi, CBC News, Winnipeg.
A northern Manitoba community is trying to get a handle on a rising drug problem by having public workers undergo mandatory testing for illegal substances. Wasagamak First Nation hired a company to test all community employees in early September. It's one of 4 communities in the Island Lake region dealing with an escalation in drug trafficking. St. Teresa Point First Nation is rolling out voluntary testing for its workers next month. Some Indigenous groups in Manitoba say they're concerned about a call to limit their right to hunt moose. The Manitoba Wildlife Federation is calling on the province to not allow rights holders to take moose in the Duck Mountains and the Porcupine Forest in western Manitoba. It comes as moose population estimates in those areas fell by around 50% between 2020 and 2023. But the Manitoba Métis Federation says it already closely monitors hunting practices.
One of the things that I think Manitoba Wildlife Federation seems to forget is we have harvesting rights, constitutionally protected harvesting rights to harvest. They have a privilege to harvest through a provincial tag allotment.
In a statement, Manitoba's Natural Resources and Indigenous Futures Minister Ian Bushy says the province is committed to protecting moose populations in the region, but did not commit to a hunting ban. Well, another sunny day across southern Manitoba, but you could definitely feel that change in the temperature. Let's bring back weather specialist Ethan Williams with a full check on our forecast.
Well, Riley, no surprise that things have been a bit cooler as we've gone through Thursday when you compare the daytime highs to Wednesday. And you can see it for yourself here. The numbers on the left, what we saw for daytime highs Wednesday, upper 20s for many places through Westman and through the Parklands. And through today, have only managed the upper teens. It's been some 10 degrees cooler in that part of the province. Even into northern Manitoba, a place like the Paw and even Churchill, 10 degrees cooler today. Churchill struggling to get into double-digit territory, and places like Gillam and Norway House feeling a little bit more of a chill once again. That is all thanks to a cold front, which you can see here with this band of cloud cover, which has now moved well into Ontario. And in behind that, we are left with nice clear skies through much of Manitoba, thanks to this large area of high pressure, which has settled right over both Manitoba and Saskatchewan. That is going to pretty quickly depart, though, as we go overnight tonight into Friday. And this next low pressure system moves in, bringing widespread rain to the north. Originally, it was thought that this cold front would bring some more significant rain to southern Manitoba, but at this point, it looks like that more intensifies as you get into northwestern Ontario. And again, more of a rain situation for the north, while things clear out pretty quickly for Saturday into southern Manitoba, and high pressure starts taking over once again for Saturday and Sunday, save for a few sprinkles moving along the northern part of the province as we get through the day a little bit later into Saturday. So again, just a few sprinkles at most, I think, through the southern part of the province. Even into northwestern Ontario, we're not looking for crazy amounts here. And even through the north, maybe at most upwards of 15 millimeters, but it shouldn't be anything too significant. The one thing that we will notice, though, is the winds starting to pick up already through the day. Friday, 50 gusting 60, even into northern sections as we get later into Friday and Saturday. We'll be starting to see those pick up from time to time. So it might be a little bit of a gusty one for the dog walk, but no problem, because Poppy has that taken care of with her windbreaker here. Big thanks to Bonnie for sending in that photo. The wind going to be a bit of a story as we head through these next few days here. Breezy at times, but you just notice those temperatures unrelenting. Things just going to keep getting warmer as we head through the weekend, and those overnight lows staying in the double digits. I'll have a look at your full 7-day forecast, Riley, coming up.
All right, sounds good. Thanks, Ethan. All right, looks like a feeding frenzy this afternoon. We have more to come right after the break. Stay with us. We're back in just a moment. The Manitoba government has launched an economic development strategy. Premier Wab Kinew says it will act as a guideline to grow the province's economy, with tariff protection, tax breaks, and the expansion of Churchill's port among the main focuses. But as the CBC's Mike Arsenault reports, the opposition says it lacks short-term supports.
Wab Kinew unveiled his government's economic development strategy Thursday, a plan he says will make Manitoba a have province by 2040. The plan means Manitoba would no longer rely on federal transfer payments. Kinew says the plan focuses on productivity, and to start, the government will fund a $50 million financing program for businesses.
The first tranche of this will go to trade-exposed industries to help you respond to the Trump tariff threat. The idea here is the economic horse is a lot more productive when it's got new horseshoes.
Kinew's government is also giving Manitoba businesses a break on their taxes.
Today we're announcing that we're going to remove the provincial sales tax from manufacturing equipment for manufacturers. If you're investing in plant and capital, you are not going to pay provincial sales tax.
Kinew says his plan will strengthen the private sector and drive growth in the province. PC opposition leader Abhi Khan says the Premier's economic plan isn't going to help Manitobans in the short term.
Manitobans are worried about today. How are they going to make payroll today? How are they going to put groceries on their tables today and pay the bills today? And this Premier is talking about 2040.
Khan says a $50 million investment is a drop in the bucket when it comes to investing in the province.
It's clear as day. This document was designed by consultants. It's got a lot of fluffy language with a lot of pictures. There's no plan until 2040.
Kinew also spoke about expanding the Port of Churchill as an opportunity to grow the economy. He says Manitoba should be ambitious in its economic goals.
You know, everybody tries to talk ourselves out of growing the provincial economy before we even start. And I'm saying we should be bold. We should try and make Manitoba have province.
Businesses can apply for the $50 million financing program starting October 1st. Mike Arsenault, CBC News, Winnipeg.
Churchill is known worldwide for its tourism and, of course, polar bears. Now the town's nearly 100-year-old deepwater port is being touted as a potential nation-building project. On the streets, that has brought a feeling of hope, excitement, and concern. Here's what Rebecca Chartrand, the Minister of Northern and Arctic Affairs and the MP for Churchill, Kiiwetinoong-Aski, told us earlier this week.
I think there is absolutely great potential for Churchill to be announced before the Grey Cup.
Year-round Churchill residents say they'd love to see more jobs in the community, but some worry the Churchill Plus proposal will jeopardize their successful tourism industry and their unique way of life. Karen Pauls takes us to Churchill.
Are you coming?
David Daly spends a lot of time on the land as a dog sled racer,
Ready? Hike!
tourism operator, and hotel owner.
Let's go now. Come on now.
Like many here, he sees the benefits of more economic development at the port.
We hope better jobs for our kids, better jobs for our grandkids in the future.
But Daly also worries more commercial shipping could impact tourism. People come from around the world to see the polar bears, beluga whales, and the aurora borealis.
And a good girl.
He hopes there will be more consultation with locals.
I hear all the time that people say that tourism won't save Churchill. Well, tourism has saved Churchill. I think the people that have the tourism relationship here in town, I think that they're a little apprehensive about, like, is this going to be rammed down our throats?
He's not the only one with mixed feelings. Joe Stover and Kevin Burke both work in tourism.
Hopefully that would mean more people coming here in terms of population.
You know, we all, wish for more jobs. I think of the younger people here in town. We need to have something for them. We need some hope.
But they worry, in particular, about an all-weather road in the Churchill Plus proposal.
When that subject came up again about building a road to Churchill, I always said, you know what, I'd be the first one standing in line with a sign protesting it.
With more accessibility comes, things like drugs.
If a road is developed into here, I truly believe we will lose our charm.
Does it matter if the community wants it or not? If it's a nation-building project, are they just going to go ahead and build it anyway?
Churchill Mayor Mike Spence is also the board chair for the Arctic Gateway Group, which owns the port and the railway. He says the goal is to find balance.
Tourism's not going to pay the way. It's not going to, make sure that our upgrades to the rail line are always going to be there.
What is this moment like for you after working on this project for so long?
Our government has realized that we need to invest and we need to build Canada just like they were building Canada back after the Second World War. It's really about Indigenous ownership and reconciliation that's critically important. We'll help pave that way.
The Churchill Plus proposal has the support of the Prime Minister. Mark Carney hinting it could be on the list of the second tranche of projects he's set to announce before the Grey Cup taking place in Winnipeg in November. Folks here will be watching. Karen Pauls, CBC News, Churchill, Manitoba.
Just days after meeting with world leaders at the United Nations, Prime Minister Mark Carney is headed to London for talks with several of his counterparts from Europe and Australia. It's part of a mission to boost Canada's trade partnerships. CBC's Catherine Cullen is traveling with the Prime Minister and brings us more on what Carney is looking to achieve on the trip.
This trip is the latest salvo in Mark Carney's battle to shake up Canada's trading relationships. One of his big pitches in the last election campaign is to build more trade connections with other like-minded countries. And even in the past few weeks, we've seen him out on the road, getting on that plane, having some of these conversations aimed at that. He went to Mexico City to meet with the president of Mexico as the CUSMA renewal process conversation about free trade is set to step up. Just earlier this week, he was at the United Nations General Assembly, where there was a lot of focus on Canada's stance on Palestinian statehood, recognizing a state of Palestine, meeting with other world leaders there as well. And now he's headed to the UK. A cornerstone of this visit will certainly be his meeting with Prime Minister Keir Starmer, but there are other international leaders that will also be in town that Carney intends to meet with. The leaders of Australia, Spain, Iceland, and Denmark. Carney will be attending the Global Progress Action Summit, a gathering of progressive leaders. He'll also be meeting with business leaders while he is on this UK trip. Again, the stated aim to indulging in photo ops, that he hasn't been getting results despite the fact that he's been meeting with all of these leaders. Conservative MP Pierre Paulus has even said that the Prime Minister is hiding from question period, and certainly he is facing some political pressure there right now over comments made by his public safety minister about the gun buyback program. Now, the Prime Minister's office has said that this trip is about diversifying Canada's partnerships, creating a web of strong global connections, emphasizing that this is part of the economic vision that the Prime Minister has, as well as security issues. But it does speak to a balance Mark Carney is trying to strike. These international trips are supposed to help domestically with Canada's economy. The Conservatives continue to apply pressure around issues like crime and immigration. Catherine Cullen, CBC News, Ottawa.
A new poll is presenting an unenthusiastic picture of opinion around the federal program that brings temporary foreign workers to Canada. It comes against a backdrop of controversy worldwide over immigration. The CBC's Linda Ward brings us the details.
In an online survey, Angus Reid asked 1,500 adults how they view the temporary foreign worker program. And what they found is that more than half have a negative view of the program. And out of those who view it negatively, 55% believe the problem is that too many foreign workers are coming into Canada. And when we look at Quebec, for example, they rely heavily on the temporary foreign worker program for their agriculture sector. 37% say the numbers are too high. Ontario, Manitoba, Saskatchewan, that goes up to 60%. And most critical was Alberta at 72%. Now, 69% of those polled felt that this program was good for businesses. As for the impact on the economy and prices here in Canada, people were split, but most felt it has a negative effect on the housing market, the labor market, and specifically the labor market for young people. However, more than half say that they believe the government exploits temporary foreign workers. When we look back at 2023, the United Nations issued a report saying that this program was akin to a contemporary form of slavery. The government disputes that and over the years has tried to make a number of changes to the program, bringing down the number of permits that have been issued. But that number has crept back up and then skyrocketed during the COVID-19 pandemic. This government has promised to reduce the number of permits this year. Between January and June, they say 33,000 new permits have been issued. Compare that to the same period last year when that number was 125,000. The Conservative Party supporters and voters are more likely to be critical of this program. 7 in 10 say that they viewed it negatively. Compare that to 39% for Liberal voters. But regardless of where people sat on the political spectrum, most Canadians believe there's room for improvement. Linda Ward, CBC News, Toronto.
European ministers are holding urgent talks on Friday amid security concerns at airports. They're discussing plans for a so-called drone wall to prevent safety breaches from the sky. This comes after 4 airports in Denmark were targeted by drones. Things are back to normal at Danish airports today, but earlier this week, planes were grounded and airports closed after multiple drone sightings. Airspace above military zones were also breached. Officials continue to investigate who may be behind the attacks. In the meantime, NATO leaders say they are following the situation closely. Still ahead, CBC Marketplace dives into the world of single-use plastics. We'll bring you a closer look at products that are labeled compostable. After the break, that story when we come back. A CBC Marketplace investigation is taking a closer look at products that are labeled as compostable. They're supposed to be better than single-use plastics, but as Charles Ciagro shows us, some aren't quite as advertised.
Even after 14 weeks underwater.
Oh, there it is.
Buried in the dirt. And a backyard composter.
Honestly, that looks practically brand new. It's dirty, but it's sturdy.
The only products that fully broke down in Marketplace's test of 30 different plastic alternatives, a paper straw, and 2 paper plates.
This says renewable and sustainable. Is this renewable and sustainable?
No, it's single-use garbage.
Environmental expert Karen Wursig wasn't surprised how little the compostable products broke down.
The stuff that looks and feels and is marketed closer to plastic is effectively plastic, and it's doing the same kind of damage in the environment as conventional plastic.
Many compostable products on the market are labeled and suitable for industrial compost facilities only. Facilities that simply don't exist in many Canadian cities. Toronto's Green Bin program is full of compostable plastic, but none of it will actually be composted here. All of it is sorted out and sent to landfill. This facility can't process it. And while some municipalities in Canada can and do process some compostable plastic, every region is different, and that's a big part of the problem, according to Toronto's manager, Matt Keeler.
We need to look at it beyond just Toronto. What would make it better for Toronto? It's what would make it better for everyone in Canada. And I think that would be just standardization in terms of how we process organics across the country, not have it divvied up into, municipality accepting a couple products that the neighbor doesn't accept.
When we asked Environment Minister Julie DeBruisen to come on camera and talk about her plans to put plastic alternatives in their place, she refused. Her office did send a statement, though, saying they proposed labeling rules for compostable products back in 2023. Those are on hold, though, while we await a federal court decision. Charles Ciagro, CBC News, Toronto.
And you can watch the full Marketplace investigation Friday at 8 p.m. on CBC Television or anytime on CBC Gem and YouTube. Let's get back to Ethan now with our full Manitoba forecast. And Ethan, we have seen some rain through September, but it's still been very dry.
Well, Riley, it's hard to believe we're well into September here, almost October, and we're still talking about the risk of forest fires, specifically through the northern prairies. That has been an issue in Manitoba and Saskatchewan and Alberta. You can see a few flare-ups there, still pushing some smoke into our province. I don't think we're looking for any widespread issues over these next few days, but you still could see a little bit of the haze, smell a little bit of that smoke, especially through the north of the province. As we go through these next couple of days here, we'll be watching to see if air quality statements in Saskatchewan are expanded eastward into Manitoba. That forest fire threat going to be prolonged because of the warm and dry weather. The jet stream trend here over these next few days showing this ridge continuing over the Canadian prairies. And even as we get into Saturday and Sunday, you notice that these colors here along the bottom of the map just getting deeper in color, indicating even warmer temperatures are ahead. And that means our overnight conditions will be quite warm as well for many of us. In southern Manitoba, overnight tonight, looking for those lows generally in about kind of the 5 to 10 degree range. Noticing nice clear skies as well. Definitely not a frost risk for many of us as we go overnight, even into northwestern Ontario. Some temperatures closer to the 10 degree mark in the overnight hours. Even into northern Manitoba, still some of us seeing even double-digit overnight lows if you're in Flin Flon. Notice that the cloud cover starts building in into western sections of the north as we go overnight, and that's because that next low pressure system will be making itself known as we get into early Friday morning. By the noon hour, places like Lynn Lake and around Flin Flon could be seeing some more steadier rain before that continues to move eastward through the day. Closer to the Hudson Bay coast and along the border with Ontario, I think this rain will probably be reaching you into the evening hours on Friday before that starts to move out as we get into Saturday. For southern Manitoba, we are waking up Friday to a lot of sunshine. And again, those temperatures maybe even into the double digits as we get into the first part of the morning hours. Things warming up quickly, closer to 20 degrees by the noon hour. You'll notice, though, some of those showers from that cold front that's moving through may impact southern Manitoba as we get a little bit later into the afternoon. If not, at least we'll be seeing a little bit of some cloud cover building in. Some nice temperatures, though, but windy as we head throughout the day. I'll have a look at the 7-day forecast coming up.
Thank you, Ethan. Steinbach was thrust into the national spotlight this morning. CBC's Morning Live hosted a live broadcast from the city, highlighting its growth and the potential uncertainty ahead. The CBC's Cameron McIntosh spoke with Heather Hiscox about the impact Canada's trade war with the U.S. is having on the local economy.
This city is a major hub for farming, as you would expect here in Manitoba, but also for manufacturing, as well as the businesses and the services that support it. A member of our CBC News team is here with us in Steinbach, making the trip from Winnipeg, which takes you right through the center of Canada. You pass literally through the center of Canada to get here. I love that moment. It was so symbolic. Cameron McIntosh is here. And Cam has been looking at how the tariff and trade war has been affecting the local businesses and the regional economy as well.
Yeah, big impacts, and welcome to Manitoba, by the way.
Thank you very much.
So not only is Steinbach near Winnipeg, it's also near the U.S. border with direct connections to Minnesota and North Dakota. A lot of the growth here has really relied on north-south trade, but in this era of tariffs, counter tariffs, and pending renegotiation of North American trade next year, there's a lot of uncertainty. So people here, they're looking to adapt and diversify.
Made in Canada, there's nothing stock about these windows.
Everything we make is configured to order.
Most bound for the U.S.
Depending on how busy we are, it'll be about 200 or 300 units a day will be produced.
And most of it like this, by hand.
Neil Fast is president and CEO of Lowen Windows and Doors. Currently protected from U.S. tariffs, still the business and the 700 jobs that go with it are in flux.
We are looking to really simplify our supply chain, make it a lot more resilient.
Changing tariffs and counter tariffs on items like aluminum and lumber have made his input costs less predictable. Fast is trying to hedge by getting more Canadian projects in the order book.
We're having our best year in Canada in a long time.
That doesn't fully replace the U.S., where orders next year are less than certain. Lowen is a big employer in Steinbach. Since 2011, the population has grown more than 30%. Manufacturing and agriculture driving a lot of that growth.
These 3 are full. The last 2 are still waiting.
Margaret Empel runs a mixed farm with her son. Midway through harvest, she's watching the weather, markets, and the whims of the White House. Their hog business is entirely Canadian, but uncertainty over U.S. trade threatens prices overall.
It's a huge factor because it makes it difficult to plan for next month, let alone next year, or for the next generation.
Across the region, a push to adapt and diversify as community leaders look to attract other businesses.
We are pro-business and we are set up in a way that is great specifically for young families.
With national and cross-border economic and political forces beyond anyone's control, it forces businesses to be nimble.
The culture and the workforce that has been built up here is incredible.
We are by nature tenaciously optimistic, I sometimes say.
Tenaciously optimistic, I love that. You mentioned the population boom, nearly doubling in the last 20 years and a third growth in just the last 10 years. Businesses are a big part of that gap.
Yeah, the community has aggressively sought to grow businesses, basically looking to get bigger to not only compete with Winnipeg, but compete nationally and internationally. So what we've seen here is a real push to bring people in from other places, so Mexico, Ukraine, Philippines, India. Steinbach is part of a national program called the Rural Immigration Pilot, and basically what that does is it brings in skilled workers and gives them permanent resident status. So those are people that are not only going to come here to work, but they're going to stick around and help the community grow. Lowen is one of the companies involved in that, and it really credits it for helping it develop a skilled and stable workforce.
That's a new program just this year, and in one of 14 cities in the country, Steinbach is. Why is attracting newcomers so important to Steinbach?
Well, like much of Canada, and particularly rural Canada, the workforce is aging. We're now in the last cohort of boomers that are hitting official retirement age. And that's certainly been the experience here. And a lot of young people over the last few decades, they've been moving out of rural areas towards larger urban centers. So if you look at those Steinbach growth stats, here's what's interesting. If you remove immigration, the community's only grown about 3% in the last decade or so. If you look at the working population, it's less than 2% growth. If you look at the growth of seniors, it's up around 7%. So you need to replace those workers. Also, a lot of Canadians just aren't showing interest in sectors like manufacturing, so immigration really does become a lifeline.
After the break, some eagle-eyed bird watchers spot an owl in need. The Great Escape, just ahead. Well, here's a look at the new mascots unveiled today for the 2026 FIFA World Cup. Representing host nations, of course, Canada, the U.S., and Mexico are Maple the Moose, Clutch the Bald Eagle, and Zayu the Jaguar. The opening match is set to kick off next June in Mexico City. Both Toronto and Vancouver are hosting matches here in Canada.
We'll keep a close eye on these normals for this time of year because you're not going to see anything close to that on our 7-day forecast here for Winnipeg, especially daytime highs well into the mid-20s for these next few days, almost the entirety of the 7-day forecast, in fact. And those overnight lows, look at that, jumping into the mid-teens. Usually we see that in the middle of July. The only factor, though, of course, going to be some breezy conditions. That really remains a story for us as we go throughout the 7-day forecast. Not a lot of moisture in the forecast either for so the farmers, if you are finishing off harvest, some good conditions there. Maybe some showers on Thursday. But by and large, as we get into October, Riley, feeling a little more like August.
Yeah, no kidding. Thank you so much, Ethan. Well, we all need a bit of a hand getting out of a sticky situation every now and then. That was the case for a great horned owl this morning in Winnipeg who needed a bit of help from police, conservation officers, and a vet. Here's your Daily Lift.
Yeah.
Oh, this poor thing.
Yeah.
A pair of eagle-eyed bird watchers noticed this owl tangled in the protective netting that shields the West District Police Station's parking lot from stray golf balls. Winnipeg Police called in help from Manitoba Conservation and a vet from Assiniboine Park Zoo this morning. They were able to make quick work of carefully detangling the bird and using a fishing net to get it close to the ground before they are able to cut the netting out from around it. The owl was then wrapped into a blanket and checked for any injuries. And just like that, the moment it was released back into the wild to fly again, luckily injury-free. By the way, fun fact for you, a great horned owl's talons are so strong that it takes 28 pounds of force to pry it open. Not something I want to tangle with. That is our program for this Thursday. Thank you so much for being with us. We'll see you again tomorrow. Have a great night.